Hi folks, okay, without further ado, let's get straight into this thing. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to do a fresh install of SASAMS. I'm going to do it from the files that I was given, the files that I took off the internet. We discovered a slight discrepancy here in that the files that I took off the internet, if I ran the last update, which was 16.3.1, it seemed to reverse back to a previous version, whereas when I looked at some of you folks who had got these files off the CD, and I ran patch 16.3.1 on the machine, it was correct. It seems to match 16.3.0, which I left off the internet, but don't worry about that. Don't worry too much about the buttons, the things that I'm running when installing SASAMS, because, as I say, I have not lifted these files off the CD you've got, and if you just run the files that you've got on the CD, as I say, for instance, you'll have patch 16.3.1, just run that. Don't worry that I'm not running it right. So I'm first of all going to install it for the first time. Okay. Right, then we say OK here. Now the first thing to do is I would recommend to change the directory. This thing defaults to program files x86, which is generally for 32-bit machine, for a 32-bit installation on a 64-bit machine. Not to worry about that too much, but the reason I would change it to this is because their patches, their updates, target this specific location instead of giving you the option to choose program files or program files x86. So rather, for simplicity's sake, I would just install it in that location over there. And say OK, and then hit the install, then just leave that as that and say continue. Right, now these are very interesting, and really just be careful when you do this. I find it quite alarming that they even bring this up in their installation file. Basically, it's talking about a .dll file, which is a registry file, and it's saying to you the file being copied into your registry is not newer than the file you currently have. And then it's asking you, it is recommended you keep your existing file. Do you want to keep this file? Hell yes, you want to keep this file. You do not want to revert to an old registry file. It could actually damage your entire operating system. So it's alarming that they don't just default it to do this. Not sure why they ask you, but just read these questions carefully and listen to what I'm saying. Alright, so if you want to keep this file, say yes. Again, it's a .ocx file, which is a system file. So you want to keep your version. Yes, I want to keep my version. It's the latest. Again, a .ocx file. I want to keep it. I want to keep mine. I don't want you to replace it with yours, because obviously they created their installation file way back when, and it's probably sitting with like a Windows 2003 system file that it's finding you have, and Windows is picking up that message and saying, are you wanting to replace this? So essentially it's a case of not having possibly updated their patch. Right, then we say OK. SAMS is essentially installed, but that's the first time, so we're sitting basically essentially with an old version of SASAMS. You'll actually see that if you were to go and open SASAMS, it opens up straight at the screen, and you'll see now when we patch it to the latest versions that it will have a different look to it. First of all, it starts off with a little splash screen and that kind of thing, but we'll see now. Right, the next thing you have to do is install this SASAMS Spread Grid 6.0.57, which you should have on your CDs. Right. So yes. Okay, so okay. Again, change the directory here so that this is backspace out this 86. Okay, don't leave any spaces there. Okay, it's going to ask you, this directory doesn't exist, do you want to create it? Just say yes. And then hit install. It's going to ask you what you want to install, just say that, yes, continue. Again, it's going to ask you the same things discussed before. Say yes. .dll, say yes. And then say okay. Now I'm going to go and run the patches to get myself up to date. And this first patch, this one, you see the patch targets that specific location now, so that's where we wanted to patch. So it was a good thing. If you left your installation as x86, you would then have to, every time you bring a patch up, go and add that x86 into that patch path. So it's better just to install it in program files in the first place, and that way you don't have to adjust the patches every time you get them. I'd say yes. Right, now I'm going to go and run this one. Again, you see it's targeting program files, so we say extract. Say yes. Right, now again, read these questions carefully. In this case, it's saying you already have this .mdb file. Would you be replacing it with this one? In this case, you can say yes, because these are obviously the .mdb files from within SAMS, and you're replacing it to the latest version. So you say yes. A .exe file, say yes. Now a .dll file. Now this is slightly different. You were saying yes to the answers before during installation, but now the question is, would you like to replace the existing file with the one they have? It's a .dll file, so it's a system file, so you say no. Right, .exe file is theirs, yes, yes. .dll is system file, no, I don't want to replace it. .exe, yes. School mdb, yes. .exe, yes. .exe, yes. .mdb, yes. .exe, yes. Yes, 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 yes. .dll file, system file, no, I do not want to replace mine. So just remember that when you do the installation, the question is the other way around. So read the question first before you answer yes or no. Simple rule of thumb is that when you're doing the installation, it asks you if you want to keep your DLL files. The answer is yes. When you're doing the patches, it asks you if you want to replace your DLL files. You say no. Alright, this is a .exe, so we say yes. Right, now you will see that Eduse, the new version of SAMS has installed. We can go and make a, you can stick this on your desktop if you want to make a shortcut. I'm surprised it hasn't made a shortcut for me. It did that before, but it should do so for you anyway. There it has done it there. Okay, so we hit it. Now you'll see it opens up differently to the first installation that I did. It starts off with a splash screen, a little bit more aesthetic, and it starts off with a screen which is slightly different. It's asking if you want to put it on this computer on the network. I'm going to do it on this computer for the sake of simplicity. Decimal characters a point, yes. Their short date format, folks, remember, is going to default to YYYY MMDD. Front Office is, rather ironically, exactly the opposite way around. And both systems require that the short date format is this. SAMS has got a function that when you open it, it asks you if you want to change it, and it does that. We're going to build the same thing into Front Office when we have time to breathe to come around this. But just remember that if you do install SASAMS and you fiddle around with it, that when you change back to Front Office, you change your short date format back to DDMMYY. Right, so I'm going to say create new database. It's telling me I don't have any existing databases. Let's call this SAMS data. I would say that for your guys' purposes, just put like maybe a little abbreviation of your name, or you know, even just the full name of your school if it's short. It may even just make it helpful to us when we've got lines of different schools data down the page later on. But just okay, so just put your name in there as well. So I'm going to say okay. I'm going to, now the first time you log in, username is administrator and password is admin. Okay, then we log in and it's going to create a new database. Now you'll see, okay, first of all, it won't let you click on anything because it wants to force you to change your password. So come in here, and you could have just clicked straight on this user preferences box, but I was just showing you what happens if you try and click on something else. And then I'm going to confirm my password and click save. So now if I go and click on school information, you can see there's no school date details or cycle information or anything like that in there. Okay, in fact, if, for instance, if I click class information, there's no grade set in here. The school is blank basically. If I try and go and click on human resource information, it tells me you haven't done the general information before that, which is much like the EMIS tool that you guys have used in the past, where you couldn't move on to second section once you've done the first section. So you can see this database is empty. So I'm going to exit this database, and I'm going to go to my populated database that we've worked on in order to populate SASAMS with dummy data, and log in. Now I'm going to go and find where this data has been put in. You'll see that they actually bury this thing fairly deep in the file structures, but this is where it's gone and put the data. Users, displays, app data, local, visual store for whatever reason, program files, EduSource SAMS, data, and there is the data file that we've just created. So I'm going to tell FrontOFFICE that that's where it is. Okay, and cut it up to that point. Control V. Okay, and put the SASAMS data. In this case, I called it value. Okay, so we normally you just put, when you put paths into FrontOFFICE in emails and things like that, put attachments, you just put the path and we figure out the file name. But in this case, you could have named your file name anything. So put the name of the file that you called your database.mdb actually in there. Then I'm going to click export to SAMS. It was successful. I just want to take you through something quickly, folks, because this actually blows my mind. This is the module that Carl has been writing to do this, and it is a hell of a job. It's not in many times when you're writing code, it's sort of the trickiest parts are coming up with the first iteration of the code, and then the repetition of the code, and then once you've done that, it becomes fairly simple. You can copy and paste and change the various references. But in this case, in so many of the fields, Carl has had to do, he's had to bring in specific functions. You know, little things like working out if the difference between our field properties and their field properties, and default values, and all kinds of things and unique features that each and every field has to them. So if we're going to, I know that you're going to be looking at Greek when I bring this up, but I just kind of proud, I guess, in a sense as well, what he's done, but it is just useful in a sense to see how epic this is, and so that you understand, this, in many cases, to do this perfectly and brilliantly and refine it over time, it may have taken, even if I did this with Dad in the past, I would say that, we've done this over like a 6 month period. Kyle has basically thrashed this code, and you can see from the scroll bar here how long it is and how much he's had to write. This is the export into the global settings SASAMS database, and you can see each of the survey detail, each of the elements comes with different functions that he's had to write for the transfer of these fields. Cycle info, alright. This is to export the registers. That was I say fairly simple, but when you start talking about exporting the educators and non-educators and learners, then you start to really move into, so we'll scroll a bit faster, non-educators, field by field, folks. There are stacks and stacks of fields. I'm going to go through them briefly with you. Export from learners, and each of these fields has a unique set of, almost a unique profile, if you like, about them. And we scroll all the way through to the bottom, so you can see it has been no mean feat. We've been given very little time scale. When you consider that SASAMS, and that has been developed like any of our systems over decades, to write an API between the systems in the short time frames we've been given. We were told in November last year categorically SASAMS will be compulsory. Be compulsory to submit in that format, so knowing that full well that we're all going to have to sit and write APIs without any specifications. They haven't given us any specifications to do this. So yeah, they're not playing fair, really. We've had to do what we've had to do, let's just say that, to figure out how to get the data in there. Right, now that we've done that, let's go and open SASAMS and see what we can see. Edu Sol Sams. Kilio Year. Kilio Na. And Cedar. Alright, so in this particular case, the first thing it did was, and this is fairly useful actually, as I said before, this is actually quite a useful exercise because they do tend to be more stringent in SAMS about not allowing you to go onto this section if you haven't captured that and do that and all the rest of it, whereas in FrontOFFICE we've often left that open to you because some schools might not use this field or that field. But as these programs grow and grow, these programs are becoming more and more of a communication tool than they ever have been, and it's something we're going to be working on really hard this year to do with FrontOFFICE. You start to find that of course it becomes far better to have more accurate data sets reflected, and it becomes useful. It means the tools we build for you, we know with confidence when you run them they're going to work, and they're not going to be missing this data. If you're running auto email, for instance, and it's looping through the emails and sending to each parent, that you don't have an email that doesn't have the @ sign in, for example, or just it doesn't exist at all, which is fine. It happens. Not everybody does have access to email and things like that, but I'm just providing it's the old classic thing. The better your database is captured and maintained, the more effective it will be for you. That's not rocket science, folks. We all know that. In this case, it's picked up invalid ID numbers, so you would be able to print out that list and go and have a look at go and sort that out first, because it's one of the most important factors, especially for the departmental software and departmental data warehouses. Obviously ID number is a very valid a required piece of data for Lyrics as well, so this is nothing new. Alright, so I click OK and it goes into SASAMS. Now you'll be able to see that when I click on general information, alright, it always brings up a birthday list first when you click on these things. Now I click on school details and you can see the data has been pulled through. Alright, cycle information all in there, class information, done. Alright, school subjects we're yet to do. Kyle has done the archiving of educators and learners, and tomorrow he's going to be working on absentees, and by the weekend we're going to be working on subjects. I don't think so pretty much you keep working on what you've been working on, and subjects you're setting up normally. I don't envisage there's going to be much, well, a massive amount for you to do once you've entered the subjects as per front office. I feel that the way we're going to pull them into SAMS or link them into SAMS is probably going to be via subject codes. So if we do come back to you, even if you've submitted your data to us already, for instance, we say, look, we just have to line up your subject code so that they match the, those 4-digit subject codes that you write in the subjects table, so that they match the ones that SAMS have, so that when the subjects pull through, they pull through. But yeah, again, if we go back to, we go human resource information, so this is educators, and you'll see that it brings up all your educator information, etc., etc. Click on these buttons and okay. And if we go back to the main menu, we go to learner and parent information. It brings up a birthday list. You can see your learner information is in here as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to run through. I mean, when I talk about compulsory files here, it's quite difficult to, well, we have to sort of in a sense differentiate the level of compulsory files, if you like. There's almost two levels of compulsory files. There's the information that they are more than likely going to extract from this SASAMS database that you give to them, which is more or less what you captured in the EMIS tool, and more or less, if you remember the columns that you captured in your Excel spreadsheets last year that you sent to them. If you look at this document that they sent out, this is more or less, I would say, the fields that you've got to be concentrating on making sure are in there. Learners, admin number, surname, first name, date of birth, ID number, grade, class, gender, nationality, race, home language, first additional language and second additional language will pull through from the subject side of things. Again, educator, surname, first name, etc., etc. But the thing is that when you import this data into SAMS, as I said, as you've seen before, very often you need certain bits of information are compulsory for you to even be allowed to enter the record, that have to go through. Now, I don't want to alarm you here, but this is a sort of a list of the fields that I've made by looking at that code that are exported to SASAMS. I mean, you can see it's lengthy. Educators, first name, surname, initials, physical address. Okay, it works out the telephone code from the telephone number, date of birth, all the way down, medical aid number, post level, cell phone, blah blah blah, all the way down. Now the thing is, I mean, most of these fields, if you look at all these fields, like your nature of appointment, and these were all compulsory for Lyrics anyway. That's why I said if you follow your Lyrics things, you more or less can't go wrong, along with the general information that you're used to capturing in front office anyway. Same for learners. Admins, first name, surname, Lyrics number, date arrived. Lyrics number, not, I mean, if it's blank, that's fine, because you can, people use SASAMS do register learners from SASAMS. It's not going to force you to have a alerts number to put the record. I'm not saying that these fields are compulsory and it won't work if it goes to SAMS, but if you stick as closely as possible to getting all these fields in, you're going to get as much data as you can into SASAMS and be able to in fact use SASAMS as your departmental module. You know, you can keep exporting at any given point, and anytime they want a printout of some type, you can just bang it from SASAMS. You know, usually they send something like, let's just have a look at this, which is kind of what I've been using roughly as well. You know, they'll send you something like, please submit blah blah blah, printed from section 2.1 of SAMS or whatever it might be. I've put these two PDF documents into your Dropbox. If you go into the department 2017 areas covered in SASAMS and items to submit. So the signed and stamped principal deployment report. So if we go to SASAMS, that is section 17. Okay, so alerts approval module. In this case, alright, deploy database. In this case, if we're talking specifically about alerts, let's just go back to that. Science that you see now. This is maybe somebody can get more clarity from the department on this, but you know, the 17 deployment report is the LURTS deployment report. It is the 25th of January. The LURTS service was supposed to be open on the 10th. They are saying in these circulars that LURTS is supposed to be uploaded by the 31st, and I've had an email from the LURTS support desk to say that the LURTS servers will probably only be open on the 27th of January 2017. So, and that's even if they make that deadline. So what they're saying is, you know, you've got 4 days to upload your LURTS information, which I think is hardly fair when considering that they came up with the 31st of July to upload LURTS based on the fact that the servers would be open on the 10th. So that surely needs to be pushed back. The other thing is that your LURTS is submitted and deployed through FrontOFFICE, so you wouldn't be printing a deployment report from SAMS anyway, you'd be printing it from FrontOFFICE. Printed learners according to race, gender and grade, signed and stamped 3.5.6.1. So let's go back to the main menu. So we'll be going 3.5.6.1, and so what we would do is we can print this. Let's just say cancel it and bring it up. We can come in here and save this and send it to you, so that that is what you go and submit to them. We just email that to you, and you can sign your name in there and sign it and submit that to them. So in effect, we can provide you with what you want and need to give to the department, which would be this SASAMS file sitting on the CD, right? We would give you that just to copy, and then print out these things for you to literally give to them. So EMIS HR printouts 2.9, for instance. So I've closed SASAMS. So let's just say 2.9, for example. 2.9. You see, the rest of it they will extract from there. Why they want you to print these things out specifically when they can extract it from you, I'm not entirely sure, but be that as it may. 3.9, 8 EMIS HR printouts, employment and remuneration. Employment and remuneration. So again, I'll just say cancel, it'll bring that up. You would print that out and take that to them. As I say, I mean, in theory, you don't even have to actually install SASAMS. If you're sending us your data file, it's captured to the best of your ability to what you can do. And, you know, in future, guys, we will be expanding the learner data sheets to include these fields. And, you know, it's just been such late notice this year that to be able to get the entire spectrum covered has been really difficult. So, you know, we just have to do your best to get the information in. And, you know, what we're hoping to be able to get right this year with the emailing of everything, to be able to email as much information from front office, both internally and externally, is to be able to email digital forms that can be filled in and sent back, and possibly even populate front office directly from the form when it's open, you know, kind of in sort of a reverse mail merge, as it were. Those are things we'll be working on. So we've just got to do our best to get this first iteration out the way. And, you know, as you can see from the code that we've been doing, the body and the eyes and the brain have been built. It's now about building the tentacles and being able to refine this whole process. And as I say, essentially master, if you like, SASAMS into being a departmental module. And in a sense, the systems morph around each other, and front office, I quite like the idea of being able to grow front office in the ways that my dad and I envisaged a long time ago, and now Carl today as well, and even Caroline when we have our powwows and our meetings, to the things that we wanted to do, all the nice things we've wanted to build over the years, but we've been held back so often by becoming a service company that scrambles after what the department requirements are. And of course, you've seen, those of you who've been in the school setup for the last 5 or 6 years have seen since, 2009, when they introduced lyrics for the first time, how drastically the goalposts have moved, and how we've shifted our business model and our ideas and our ways of operating consistently to be able to assist you flexibly. I mean, you know, documents, even just simple EMIS returns, printed form, change format from year to year as new guys come into their jobs and make their little stamp and add columns and remove columns and change headings and fonts, and right from the silly and the mundane to the extreme. So yeah, that's I thought that would be just nice for you folks to be able to see the whole thing in operation from our side, and how it's coming into play. And I just feel that if you send us your databases and there's little niggles and areas that have to be touched up, we'll be able to pick it up quicker, send it to you, keep track of it, much like we do with lyrics in a sense. And if there's any touching up needed on your side. And then what I would request is I was thinking about the fact that some of the districts have been asked to hand their databases in earlier than was stated on the provincial circular, which was the 6th of February. Possibly they might be doing that intentionally, maybe anticipating that there might be a lot of comebacks with all the service providers having to provide an SASAMS format now. So the schools that do go in early with front office, I'm hoping that you know, if there are a couple of niggles and you have to bring it back, that's fine. We'll dance, we'll jump the bullets, we'll think on our feet, we'll get it right, we'll get it back to them, and by the time the masses of you start handing your data files in, we should have worked out all the kinks and the niggles by then. If any of you have recourse to being able to ask someone at your department for a trial run that would be fantastic too. It would greatly facilitate our ability to be able to know exactly what they're looking for and they're going to extract, and what their front end might pick up and throw back at you or whatever. Then we'll be able to circumvent any comebacks in the future. Right, folks, there's a lot to cover there. This is a long demo. Do your best. We're doing our best. Good luck, and we'll be chatting soon, I'm sure.